It's not like any other podcast, coming to you straight from the heartland where investing is told like it is. It's time for Darin Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. Hold on, because here comes the next episode of the Paranoid Banker Podcast.
Well, hey everybody, Darin Garman here, and welcome to this week's podcast, where we are going to be talking about when a six-figure salary still can't buy a home. Yep, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute, but before we get started and I give you some details on this, just a reminder for 15 investors in January of 2020 and March of 2020, I will be having the Heartland Multifamily Investment Summit. And as a reminder, this summit is only for serious investors. I will be having a summit in January of 2020, which is, just around the corner already, and March of 2020. If you are someone that has some experience with multifamily investing and you want to get more serious about it, or if you are an investor that has been sitting on the fence and you realize it's time to get serious about multifamily investing, this summit is for you. Now, the key here is this is an informational summit. There will not be anything sold at the summit. This is not one of those kinds of boot camps or conferences where you go there and you hear 7 or 8 people that talk to you and give you a little bit of information, then want you to buy their product at the back of the room. This is not the case. That will not happen here. There is no closing, there's no sales, there's no pitches. It is information. But this is not for tire kickers. It is for serious investors, again, that have some multifamily or some rentals right now, or maybe some other commercial investment real estate, and want to get serious about taking that to the next level. Or if you're an investor that has been sitting on the fence and know you should be devoting more time, attention, and investment to multifamily communities, especially based on what I'm going to be talking with you about today on this podcast, you should check this out. You want to go to heartlandinvestmentsummit.com. That's www.heartlandinvestmentsummit.com. heartlandinvestmentsummit.com. All right, let's talk about $100K salary falls short. Now, before I get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of what we're going to talk about on this podcast, I need to give credit to Ryan December, Laura Cusisto, and Shane Shiflett, who published an article in the Wall Street Journal. And this is the Wednesday, October 16th. So a couple of months ago, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, this article was front page in the Wall Street Journal. It's been sitting on my desk now for a little while because I've been meaning to talk to you guys about this article and the magnitude and the importance of this article. And the article is entitled, "When a Six-Figure Salary Still Can't Buy a Home." And I'm not going to be reading you the article because that's not what we're going to talk about on this podcast. I mean, this isn't me reading you an article, but we're going to talk about the significance and the magnitude of this article because it is lock, stock, and barrel what we have been talking about and what we've been seeing in terms of writing on the wall with rentals, specifically multifamily communities. And I've been talking about this for years now and really been emphasizing it more so over the last few years, mainly because of 2 things. Number one is interest rates. So interest rates have dropped to historical lows. And have you noticed any changes in the ownership of single-family homes? No, it's actually gone down and continues to go down. So I want you to think about this. We are at historical lows for interest rates right now to get financing to own your own home, condominium. But yet, quarter after quarter, there may be some upticks and blips here and there, more and more people tend to rent. So, if you think about the corollary of this is we are at a point in time where if you can't buy a home now with where rates are at now, the lowest they've ever been, what are you going to do when rates go up? What are you going to do when rates are 6%, 7% maybe? I mean, it's going to be impossible, pretty much, if you can't do it now. So number one is interest rates. And that's one of the main reasons I've been really talking about owning your own multifamily community and why it makes so much sense as an investor to do so. But the other part of this is cost of living. And I've really been hammering this, probably more than is really necessary, if I would admit that. Yeah, I would. Admittedly, I've been hammering this more than is necessary. And we're talking about the cost of living is going to continue to increase at a pace faster than wages. So here we have an article that goes into a lot of detail. And the article is really about focusing on a couple of families and a couple of individuals who earn over $100,000 and they're renting versus owning. Okay? I'm going to read a couple of snippets to you. Now, I told you I wasn't going to read you the article, and I'm not. But I want to hit a couple of snippets in the article because it's very important that you understand where this is headed, especially when it comes to your money and where you plan on investing your money. So here, listen to this paragraph in this article. A $100,000 income is still comfortably in excess of the median U.S. household income, which is $63,179 in 2018. Now, I want you to let that sink in for a second. So let's just push the pause button here. The median household income is $63,000 as of 2018. So not only are interest rates as low as they're probably ever going to go, although arguably you can say they may go down to zero or maybe even a little bit above zero, and that's another discussion for another time. But here we are at historical lows of interest rates. With the housing market continuing to falter, and I keep hitting sidebars and I apologize for that, getting off track a lot, but here's another sidebar. In no way am I saying that no one is buying, no one is building. People are. Okay. As I've said before, I still drive by developments here in Cedar Rapids and Marion, and I see, houses being built. And just across the street from me, someone's building a spec house right now. So I'm not saying it's shut off, the faucet's shut off. What I am saying is every year, less and less and less people are owning. More and more people are renting. Okay? All right. So if you're having trouble not being able to, if your goal is to own your own home or condo, and you're not able to do it on $100,000, I want you to understand. I want you to hear this again. $100,000 income is in excess of the median household income of $63,000. So what that means is the average American makes $63,000. How are they going to own their own home or condominium? Because if you're earning $100,000 or more, you're in excess of the average. But yet, you are having trouble. You are not able to meet all of the criteria of owning your own home or condominium. Here's what I'll continue to read this to you. Many Americans these days are mired in debt. Sound familiar? We've talked about this. They have car payments, I would say at least 2. Credit card debt, healthcare bills, and college loans. Geez, doesn't that sound familiar? Exactly what we've been talking about. Student debt is particularly vexing for younger Americans starting families. Interesting, huh? Here's another little paragraph. Houses can be effective wealth builders because most people borrow most of the purchase price. Oh, maybe, but okay. That leverage magnifies gains when prices are rising, but also increases losses when they fall. Sound familiar? That explains the big decline in household wealth in the financial crisis, and here's the point. And why people are less excited about owning a home today despite otherwise steady appreciation over the decades. 20 years ago, people thought about leasing a car and it was like a bad word. Today, everyone leases and nobody cares. According to a survey by Freddie Mac, just 24% of renters said that they were extremely likely that they would ever own a home, down 11 percentage points from 4 years ago. I could go on, I could go on, I could go on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, grandmas and grandpas, the writing is on the wall here. We have people that are earning six figures that can't buy their own home or condo, and at the end of the day, none really want to. I guess that's stretching it a little bit. That's not accurate. None. It's inaccurate to say none want to. Nobody does. Of course, some do. But like the article says, it's down 11 percentage points from just 4 years ago. And these folks are earning $100,000 a year in a time with the lowest interest rates we've ever had. And because of the cost of living, which was the number 2 thing I mentioned, and it's all the things we've talked about before: debt, car payments, daily cares of life expenses, medical bills, and then you throw in wild cards like college tuition. And by the way, I know all about that because I'm paying it right now. Okay? Folks, the writing's on the wall here with renting, and it is at a point now where we are, 30% above, 40% probably above the median income in this country. And even with that amount of income, owning your own home or condominium is pretty darn tough. And that's one thing when the financial numbers tell you that. But the telling thing here, the big takeaway for me, because this article says everything that we've been talking about now going on 5 years. But the telling thing here is not so much all of the math in the numbers that are substantiating our position on multifamily property, especially mine. It's that people now don't really want to own their own home. Again, it's inaccurate to say nobody wants to. That's not accurate. But it is accurate to say that every year less and less and less people that are renting now will want to own their own home or condominium. So what does this tell you? It tells you 2 very, very important things. And these are writer downers, so to speak. Okay? They're going to be a little obvious, but they're still writer downers. Number 1, the line of people wanting to and having to rent over the years will continue to get longer and longer and longer. So that's number 1. Number 2, as capital continues to find returns, looking for more predictable returns, more predictable places to put their money, to park their money. When capital sees lines of people wanting to rent, how predictable is that, do you think? It's pretty damn predictable. So where will the capital go? it will go into multifamily real estate. And we're seeing this already, but not at any kind of fever pitch level. And I'm going to tell you why we don't see this at a fever pitch level here in just a second. It's pretty obvious too, but I'm going to tell you why that is. And what that will do is that will drive up values and pricing. So if you own your own multifamily community today, the likelihood that you will be able to exit that multifamily community a few years down the road with a large profit is very, very, very good. Very good. Because of what we're talking about, the demand. And it is starting already, and I'm seeing it because I'm in it every day. So I would see it, and I would see it before you would or other people would, because that's what I do every day. But the main reason why you really haven't heard about it yet or seen it yet, other than articles about this. So you're seeing and hearing about articles about what we just covered. But you're not really seeing or hearing about growing demand from investors to own multifamily communities, large or small investors. You're not really seeing or hearing that much out there, especially in the mainstream media. And here's the reason why. The main reason why is because the stock market is kicking ass. That's why. The news of the day, the news is, there's three big news headlines basically every day. Okay. Stock market, how great it's doing, or if it has a little setback here or there, and how that's going, another record set. Trump's impeachment, and how that's going, and what's going on there, and trade. Trade with China. So China trade talks, Trump's news of the day on what's going on with his impeachment and what's happening there, and the stock market. Those three things dominate the news of the day, especially stock market financial-wise, which is why you don't hear about what I'm talking about, because the news is the stock market. But you'd be smart to look into this if you haven't already. You'd be smart to attend my summit, for example. And I'm not selling it because the summit's free. It doesn't cost anything. Okay? I don't care if you come or not, because I'm not making any money. There's no money there. I'm not charging anything. So it'd be smart to be at my summit with this stuff going on. The timing is, it's probably no better timing than beginning of next year for this, because of what we're talking about. So let me leave you with this. Let me leave the podcast today, and I want to leave you with this. Number one, do your own research. I'm quoting articles I'm finding, and by the way, you can accuse, maybe I'm cherry picking. You can maybe accuse me of that or whatever, and that's fine. But I can promise you I'm not. This is in pretty mainstream, well thought of financial publication, that information there. But I tell you that because you should go do your own research and check things out yourself. See if what I'm telling you is the case. Do your own digging. And then number two, make a decision on what you're going to do about it. And maybe you won't do anything. That's your choice. But it can't certainly be because you didn't know. Right? It can't be because you didn't know. Because of what is going on right now. And what we're seeing in the marketplace with demand, with supply, with where things are going. And the real cool thing about this, by the way, is you don't need to be an economist. You don't need to be you don't need to be a PhD in finance or an economist. You don't need to be any of that. You can see this going on and have these kinds of conversations, which actually is a lot of fun. Okay. So, I hope you have a great day, a great week, or weekend, whenever you've decided to listen. And I hope this has been informational to you, given you some things to think about. And again, before I let you go, I want to remind you of our summit coming up in January and in March 2020 here in Cedar Rapids. More information on everything I will cover at the summit is at www.heartlandinvestmentsummit.com. That's heartlandinvestmentsummit.com. All right, take care. Have a great day. Have a great week or weekend. We will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining Darin Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darin, go to www.garmanblog.com. Thanks for joining Darin Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darin, go to www.garmanblog.com.